Today we will be looking at fractions, what they are, and how to simplify, add and subtract them from one another. First, we need to discuss what they are. I'll do this by giving an example. So, if I had a nice big chocolate cake, as I've drawn on the board, I want to cut it into two. It's not good enough for all of it, so I cut a line straight down the middle and split it into two, like I've shown you, and I've labelled them 1 and 2. So I would say it is in two equal pieces. So as I'm cutting it into two, I'll place a 2 at the bottom of my fraction. I'm then going to remove 1/2 of this cake. So I've removed one section there, look. So the number 1 is gone, so you're left with only 2. So I will take 1 away from 2 and write 1 on the top because I started with 2 and now I only have 1 left. So I have half of my cake left. I will write this as 1 over 2, and this fraction is known as a half. Right, so a half is not the only example of a fraction. There are many examples of fractions, but I'm just about to show you another example. So first, I'm going to split the cake into half again. You'll have seen this from the last example. So I'm going to label them 1 and 2. However, I'm going to draw a nice horizontal line across this cake once again to split it into 4 sections. So I'm then going to label this 3, 1, 2, and then I've got 3. And the last one's going to be 4. So I split this into 4. So I will write 4 at the bottom of my fraction. I am then going to take away one piece from this lovely looking cake because I'm really hungry. So I've taken away one piece, and because I've taken away one piece, I'm just going to write 1 over 4 because I've taken away a quarter of this cake. So this is a good point to mention that the 4 on the bottom of the fraction is known as the denominator. So this is a common term you might hear when your teacher is teaching you fractions. So I'm just going to spell it out for you on the board. There you go, denominator. And then also, if the bottom one's got a name, the top one has to have a name as well. This is called the numerator. So if you want to try and remember these terms, as they are very important when you're dealing with fractions. So I'm now going to give you an example. If I take away 3 sections of this cake, how would you write that on your board? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to work this out, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you the answer. So, as you can see, you start with 4, because that's how many pieces you started with, and you've eaten 3. So you count all the loose parts, which is 3, and then you just wang that on the top. So the answer should be 3 over 4, or 3/4. Right, so I have another example question for you. I'm going to split this cake into 6 pieces, and I want you to work out what the sum would be if I took away 2 from it. So I'm going to draw 6 equal pieces on the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'm just going to remove 2 away, and I want you to work out what the answer would be. I'll give you a few moments to work this out. Right, so as there were 6 pieces, we put a 6 on the bottom of the fraction. So as you can see, count to 6, as I did before. Then, as we have got 4 remaining, we can do 4 take away 6, which leaves you with 2, or you can just count the 2 pieces you've taken away and write that on the top. So our denominator is 6 and our numerator is 2. Called again, then we play the video. Right, the next thing we're going to look at is improper fractions. We're just going to have a quick look at it, just so I can explain to you what they are and what you need to do with them. So as you see, I wrote 3 over 2. You will notice, however, that 3 is a larger number than 2. So if you were to write this out in cakes, you'd have to draw 1½ cakes. And as fractions are all part of one whole, if you drew 1½ cakes, you would have more than a whole cake, so therefore it's called an improper fraction. I'll cover these in more detail later in the video. Right, so next we're going to look at simplifying fractions and how you do that. So I'm going to start by writing 2 over 4 on the board. So some of you might look at this already and already know how you simplify this down, but I'm going to go through it with you to make sure we all know how to do it. So if I've got 2 and 4, they both can be divided by 2. So if I divide the top by 2, we are left with 1. And if I divide the bottom by 2, we are left with 4. So I will rewrite this fraction as 2 turning into 1 over 4 going into 2. So I can write this fraction as 1/2. So 2/4 is equal to 1/2. I'll also show this with a drawn example as well. So I'm going to split my cake first in half and then in 2/4. I'm going to label it 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to show you if I rub away 2 halves. Well, first I'm going to write what the fraction is, and then I'm going to take away 2 halves. Or 2/4, sorry. So I turn it into a half left. So there you go, I draw another line to signify that we only have half left. So I write 2 over 4 because I've taken away 2 pieces. As you can see, you're still left with half a cake. So therefore, there is a visual example of how to simplify fractions down. So as you can see, if I remove the quarter line, I just have half of a semicircle there, which is 1/2 of the cake. I'm going to label that 2, and I'm going to draw an imaginary line of where the cake used to be, and label that's 1, to show that I have 1 over 2, or a half. So 2 and a 4 is equal to 1 over 2. Right, now next is an example for you to have a go at. So if I write 2 over 6, what is that equal to? It might help for you to draw a little diagram yourself. I'm going to draw one on the board for you, but just as a visual cue, you did draw this out earlier, so you might be able to use your example from earlier, but it's always good to write an example or draw an example when you've got a question like this. So there you go, they're all labelled up for you. Have a go. I'll give you five or so seconds to have a go at that. Right, I will now go through this example with you. So if you've got 2 over 6, like below, as before, with the 2/4, you can divide both sides by 2. So again, if I divide 2 by 2, I am left with 1. And if I divide 6 by 2, I am left with 3. So 2/6 is equal to 1/3. So I'm just going to write that in the box up top to answer our original question. So that's what they would expect you to do in your SATs tests. So, as before, I showed you what an improper fraction was. So 3 over 2. I'm now going to show you how you can simplify this down to get a proper fraction. So as you can see, 3 is bigger than 2. So have a little think to yourselves to see how you can think about doing this, but I will also show you. So if you've got 3 over 2, you can also rewrite this as 2 plus a half. Because if you think about it, 1 plus 2 is 3. So there you go. So 2 over 2 plus 1/2 equals 3 over 2. So 2 over 2 is also known as 1 whole. So you can rewrite that as just 1. So you've also got 1 plus 1/2. So 1 plus 1/2 is equal to 1.5. So you can just rewrite that top heavy fraction as 1 and 1/2. So 3 over 2 is equal to 1.5. Right, so again, I'm going to hit you with an example. So this one's a little bit more challenging, but it's 7 over 3. And what is that equal? So for my answer, I'm going to start by writing out 7 over 3. So 7 over 3 is equal to 3 over 3 plus 3 over 3 again. So then you've got 6. So then you've just got to add another third. So then once you've done that, you can circle your 3 over 3, because 3 over 3, the same as 2 over 2, is equal to a whole. So you've got one whole plus another whole plus a third. So you do 1 plus 1, which is 2, and then you add your third. So you've got 2 and 1/3 as your answer.